I want to share with you guys my method for foiling lures. I've already done this on some of my videos, but I thought I'd make a dedicated video just for foiling so you can see how I go about my process of foiling, and it's actually pretty simple. You want to start with your lure having it sanded and smoothed and sealed. In this case, what I've got is wood that has been sealed with Instacure for hardness. And then I went back over it with some KSB Diamond Clear Spray. That's not really necessary, but that's just what I use for this particular lure because I'm going to be using it in saltwater and I want to max out the durability. So that's what I use to kind of create a little bit of a shell on it. But really all you need is a sealed lure, and then you can start putting your foil on. If you're working with resin, you can just apply your foil directly over the body once you've degreased it. Let's get a couple of pieces here and see if we can't get that done. Real quick, I want to talk just for a second about the kind of foil tape I use. This is primarily what I use. It's a 2-inch aluminum foil tape. And I got this from Home Depot where they sell ductwork and that sort of thing. This is just a Sure Tape AF914. It's kind of hard to find online, but I also have been using this bigger one. This one's a 4-inch tape that I got off of Amazon, and it comes from a company called GGR. It's an industrial grade aluminum foil tape that I'm kind of liking. And the reason I got it is if I've got a thicker lure, a much bigger lure, this gives me the surface area I need to get that foiled. And I've got a link to this along with other things that I use on my website. You can find the link below if you're interested in that. But really the important thing is to make sure that you get one that doesn't have anything printed on it. So many of these aluminum foils, they'll print some words or text on there, and you want to find one that just doesn't have anything on there. What I'm doing now is I've got my 2 halves, and I'm going to kind of trace around the gill area because I don't want to add any texture to the head. I want that to be smooth foil. And you can see what that does is it gives me a little guide there. And then these are like book matched, so I'm going to flip it over this way and do the same thing. Got myself a flat piece of this aluminum wire mesh, and that's going to be my pattern for scales. What's important right here is that I get it straight on my mesh. So I just pick a line on that mesh so that this will come out straight, hopefully. Let me kind of trace over that so you can maybe see it a little bit easier. You're just going to use your thumbnail and transfer that pattern onto the foil. And I'm going to be very careful to avoid the gill area. Now you don't have to do this scale pattern that I've done. A lot of people will take an X-Acto blade and they'll actually kind of score a pattern that they want on there. This is just something that I do because I think it looks really good and it's pretty easy and quick. Or you can just put the straight foil on there and have a smooth look. It's really up to you. I recommend experimenting with different things. But I wanted to show you this one because I'm kind of doing a hybrid where I've got some smooth areas and some areas with some texture on it. The next thing I'm going to do, and I should have done this earlier probably, I'm going to mark the outline of my lure, and I'm going to do it very, very lightly because I don't really want to score or emboss any more on that foil. but I just kind of need to know where my boundaries are. Again, I'm not applying any pressure at all here. It's just super, super light. And then I'm gonna cut this out, but I'm gonna leave about a 1/4 inch extra on there. Except where it comes to the tail, I'm gonna kind of taper down and get right on that line. And the reason I do that is it's gonna help me get this foil aligned properly onto the lure. The great part about this aluminum foil is if you mess up at any point in this process, you can always start over. You can peel it off and start over if you need to. Okay, we're just about ready to peel these off and put them onto the lure, but first I want to degrease this because I've been touching it with my hands, and I don't really want any oils or anything to be between my foil and my lure. So I'm gonna put on some gloves here. Get me a paper towel. And then I've got some rubbing alcohol that I'm gonna use here. You don't have to drench it. You just need to get a little bit on your paper towel. And give it a quick wipe. I like to make a couple of passes. That way if I missed something the first time, hopefully I'll pick it up on the second pass. If you want to support the channel and look good doing it, you can now get your official Zimtex merchandise. Just click on the store tab or the link to my website in the video description. There you can find everything Zimtex, including gear, links to the products I use, and other cool stuff. Something to look out for, what I really don't want to happen right now is for this foil to curl on itself. So I'm gonna try and be really careful because it's gonna wanna do that as soon as I release it here. Okay. And then I'm gonna align it tail to nose. Starting in the center, and go down that lateral line. I'm gonna go this way on the head and get it attached really well down the center here. And then we'll start working our way around the curve slowly. This is how you prevent folds as much as possible. You know, little folds and wrinkles are not the end of the world, and they're kind of unavoidable in some of these sharper curves, but you want to minimize those as much as possible. Now, don't worry about getting it too firmly attached. Right now what we're trying to do is just get it stretched over the lure, and you can see I've got some little wrinkles here, which is not a big deal. No need to panic. But you can see particularly around the head, it's kind of hard to avoid those guys. I'm gonna go ahead at this point and flip it over and do the other side so that I can get to a point where I can take my gloves off again. Now that I've got both sides foiled here and there's no more danger of me getting any oils between the foil and the lure, I've taken my gloves off because this next part is going to require use of your thumbnail again. Because what we're going to try and do is minimize these little wrinkles that we've got in there. And really all you're going to do is you're going to use your thumbnail, and you're going to have to experiment a little bit with how much pressure you can get away with, but you're just going to use your thumbnail and kind of go down the length of that wrinkle and try and minimize it. But you want to not put so much pressure that you eliminate your texture here. Now we're going to want to start working on getting the detail in the carving here. And so again, with the thumb, I like to use the squishy part to just kind of press down and define those areas a little bit. It helps me locate where they're at. I know I've got a lateral line carved in there. And then these gills, I'm going to press on those really well just to kind of locate them and find each one. And that'll help me down the road here. Now I can get in there with my embossing tool and really press out those details. These embossing tools come in a variety of sizes, but I start with the larger and then work my way down. That way it gives the foil a chance to stretch. Another thing you can do with this foil, if you want to add a little bit more detail, is you can use these embossing tools to stipple some pattern onto the gills or something like that. I'm not going to do that on this particular lure. I want it to be large, shiny areas. But I'll roll in some footage of another lure I did where I did stipple. It's just another little effect you can do. I've also seen people that, you know, put their little signature on it or whatever they want to do. You're really only limited by your imagination on what you can do. While we're here, I also wanted to share with you this other lure that I'm working on. This would be an example of a little bit more advanced foiling. This is a lure that I've carved all of the scales onto it, and then I've come back and I've pressed the foil into each of those scales. It also has a little bit finer work here in the fin and probably a little bit more detail in the gill area. In this one, you can see I'm mixing a few things. Right here in the gills, I've not foiled those because I want to paint those white. And then the belly area is going to be the same sort of deal. And then what you can see here in this joint here, let me take this apart, is we've got our scale pattern. And then here on the inside where I haven't carved the scales, I went with my pressed diamond pattern in there. Just a little bit more detail in that recessed area than normal instead of just having it blank. But I wanted you to see some of the other kind of things that you can do with this foil. From here, it's pretty much ready to paint. I like to wipe it down one more time before I start painting, since I've been touching it again with some of that rubbing alcohol just to get it nice and clean. And then you can paint it with whatever you want. I will say that I like to use these alcohol inks on foil because it allows you to paint a color over the foil, but you don't have to sacrifice the reflective nature of the foil, versus regular paints will actually cover up that shininess. And you can put this straight into your airbrush and just paint it like normal. Of course, you'll need to wear a respirator and all the protection and everything just like normal. The only drawback with these alcohol inks that I've found so far is that they are not UV stable. So once you've got that painted onto your lure, you're gonna have to come back over it with something like this UV clear spray, and that will protect the color from fading. Then you can put your clear coat of choice over the surface. I haven't used every clear coat under the sun, but those that I have used tend to work pretty well. Now I do like a thicker clear coat, and the reason being is there's a little edge on this foil that, I mean, it's very fine, but it's there, you can feel it. And so if you put a pretty thick clear coat over it, it'll smooth that out. And then you can come back and paint over that top, and you won't even see the seam. So that's it. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up so that I know to make more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.